word sounds like trouble. We're talking about machines so dangerous they'd rather kill you than let you think you're in control. The kind of stuff that turns normal people into legends, or puts them 6 feet under. But hey, some of us are wired differently, right? We like living on that edge, playing with fire, dancing with danger. There's a voice in the back of your head that says, hey, this is a bad idea. And you say, yeah, but let's do it anyway. From the first lunatics who threw themselves into the sky in what were basically flying coffins, to the maniacs who strapped themselves into rockets and called it space exploration, humanity's got this thing for pushing boundaries. But here's the kicker. Back in the 1970s, there were no computers to save your ass. It was just you, your instincts, and whatever the hell you were driving. And Porsche? Porsche decided they'd give you a machine that was equal parts fast and fucking terrifying. A car that had just as much potential to kill you as it did to thrill you. Meet the 930 Turbo. This car wasn't for the weak. It was for the brave, the insane, and everyone in between. To tame this beast, you needed balls of steel, some serious driving skills, and honestly, a little bit of luck. Because when this thing kicked in, it wasn't just fast. It was like holding onto a rabid animal while it dragged you down the road. And that's where the legend of the Widowmaker really starts. Let's take a quick detour to 1947. Chuck Yeager, the first man to break the sound barrier. This guy was flying what was essentially a bullet with wings. No one knew if the damn thing was going to disintegrate or turn him into a pancake, but Yeager was like, whatever, let's give it a shot. And he did it. He smashed through the sound barrier and history was made. That's the kind of mindset you needed to drive the 930 Turbo, a mix of bravery, stupidity, and a healthy respect for the fact that you could totally crash and burn. Fast forward to 1958, and the US military thought they'd go even crazier with the F-104 Starfighter, a jet designed to go stupid fast, but with all the handling finesse of a greased-up bowling ball, thin wings, barely enough fuel, and a reputation for killing pilots. It wasn't exactly a joyride. The Germans lost over 100 pilots to that thing. So what do you think they called it? The Widowmaker, of course. It wasn't a jet you flew. It was a jet that tried to kill you every chance it got. Sound familiar? Because that's the kind of reputation Porsche's 930 Turbo earned on the road. Sure, it was a race car wrapped in a sexy 911 body, but underneath, it was a fucking wild animal. Now, we all want to leave our mark on the world, right? Do something that says, hey, I was here and I did something awesome. For Porsche, that meant building a car that nobody else could. They'd already kicked some serious ass in motorsport by the time the 70s rolled around. Le Mans wins, rally victories, and then there was Can-Am. Oh, Can-Am, the racing series that Porsche basically ruined because they were so good. They built this ridiculous turbocharged monster called the 917/10, 1100 horsepower. Yeah, you heard that right. The thing was practically a rocket with wheels. George Follmer, a guy who took life about as seriously as a frat party, drove this beast to victory. And it was so dominant, they had to ban the damn car. Porsche had destroyed Can-Am racing with too much awesome. So what did they do with all that turbo technology? They stuck it in a 911. Because why not? The result was the 930 Turbo. It was fast, it was deadly, and it had no mercy. The engineers thought, hey, let's just shove a turbo on the 911's 3.0-litre engine and see what happens. Spoiler, what happened was chaos. The chassis couldn't handle the power, so they widened the rear axles. Still wasn't enough. Then they slapped on a big wing to add some downforce. Still wasn't enough. They stiffened the suspension, put on bigger brakes, threw in a 4-speed transmission because the 5-speed couldn't handle the torque, and guess what? Still wasn't enough. But Porsche was like, hey, screw it, give it to the public. And so, in 1975, they released the 930 Turbo, a car that would humble anyone who thought they were a good driver. It had turbo lag so bad, you'd think the engine had forgotten about you, and then bam, it'd wake up, launch you down the road, and if you weren't ready, well, good luck keeping it on the road, buddy. This thing was pure madness. But here's the thing, it was also genius. Porsche had taken everything they'd learned from racing, all that turbo wizardry, and crammed it into a road car. And despite all its wildness, it was still a Porsche, through and through. Precision, balance, speed, it had all of that, but with a terrifying edge. And the people who tamed it, they were gods behind the wheel. Because when you got it right, when you managed to harness all that power and insanity, it was fucking glorious. The kind of glory that made all the danger worth it. You didn't just drive the 930 Turbo, you survived it. Over the years, Porsche refined the Turbo, made it easier to drive, more civilized. But let's be real, none of those later models had the same heart-stopping thrill of the original. The 930 Turbo was Porsche flipping the bird to the world and saying, "Let's see if you can handle this." It was a challenge, and the brave few who took it up knew they were in for the ride of their lives. The Widowmaker wasn't just a car, it was a legend. A machine that separated the drivers from the wannabes, the brave from the foolish. And to this day, it still stands as one of the most iconic, terrifying, and badass cars ever made. So here's to the 930 Turbo, the original Widowmaker. The car that took no prisoners, made no apologies, and left its mark on the history of performance cars. If you could tame it, you were a legend. If not, well, better luck next time.